Chair McCain, and thank you, Vice Chair Hamilton, and members of the Commission for the opportunity to spend a few moments with you this afternoon. We all understand that you've been given an extremely important mission to help America understand what happened on September 11th and to help us learn from that experience so that we may improve our ability to prevent such future acts of terrorism. The FBI recognizes the importance of your work, and my colleagues and I have made every effort to be responsive to your requests. Let me take a moment before addressing the specifics of the FBI's reform efforts to reflect on the losses suffered on September 11th, 2001. I also want to acknowledge the pain and the anguish of the friends and families who were lost on that day. And I want to assure them that we in the FBI are committed to doing everything in our power to ensure that America never again suffers such a loss. I will say that, like so many in this country, the FBI lost colleagues on that day. John O'Neill was a retired counterterrorism investigator, one of our best, who had just started a new job as head of security for the World Trade Center. Lenny Hatton was a special agent assigned to the New York field office, a former Marine, a firefighter, an FBI agent. On his way to work, he went down to help those evacuating the buildings, and he was last seen helping one person out the door and heading back in upstairs to help another. And so it is in the memory of the thousands like John O'Neill, Lenny Hatton, who died that day, that inspires us in our resolve to defeat terrorism. To meet and defeat this threat, the FBI must have several critical capabilities. First, we must be intelligence-driven. To defeat the terrorists, we must be able to develop intelligence about their plans and use that intelligence to disrupt those plans. We must be global, and we must have networked information technology systems. We need the capacity to manage and share our information effectively. And finally, but as important, we must remain accountable under the Constitution and the rule of law. We must respect civil liberties as we seek to protect the American people. This is the vision the FBI has been striving towards each day since September 11th, but it is also the vision that guided Director Free and the Bureau prior to September 11th. But as you have heard, prior to September 11th, there were various walls that existed that did prevent much of the realization of this vision. The legal walls between intelligence and law enforcement operations, thankfully, have been broken down. Those walls handicapped us before September 11th, but they have now been eliminated. We are now able to fully coordinate operations within the Bureau and within the intelligence community. And with these changes, we in the Bureau can finally take full operational advantage of our dual role as both a law enforcement and an intelligence agency. We are eliminating the wall that historically stood between us and the CIA. The FBI and the CIA started exchanging senior personnel in 1996, and we have worked hard to build on that effort. Today, the FBI and the CIA are integrated at virtually every level of our operation, and this integration will be further enhanced later this year when our counterterrorism division co-locates with the CIA's Counterterrorist Center and the Terrorist Threat Integration Center at a new facility in Virginia. We have also worked hard to break down the walls that have at times hampered coordination with our 750,000 partners in state and local law enforcement. We have more than doubled the number of joint terrorism task forces since September 11th. Removing these walls has been a part of a comprehensive plan to strengthen the ability of the FBI to predict and to prevent terrorism. Developed this plan immediately after the September 11th attacks, and with the participation and strong support of the Department of Justice and the Attorney General, we have been steadily and methodically implementing it ever since. As you know, this plan encompasses many areas of organizational change, from re-engineering business practices to overhauling our information technology systems. And since you have a detailed description of the plan, which we have provided to you, I will not repeat it here today, but I would like to take a moment to highlight several of the fundamental steps we have taken since September 11th. Our first step was to establish the priorities to meet our post-9/11 mission. Starting that morning, protecting the United States from another terrorist attack became our overriding priority. Every FBI manager understands that he or she must devote whatever resources are necessary to address the terrorism priority, and that no terrorism lead can go unaddressed. The second step was to mobilize our resources to implement this new priority. Starting soon after the attacks, we shifted substantial manpower and resources to the counterterrorism mission. We also established a number of operational units that gave us new or improved counterterrorism capabilities. Another step was to centralize coordination of our counterterrorism program. And this centralization, this fundamental change, has improved our ability to coordinate our operations here and abroad, and it has clearly established accountability at headquarters for the development and success of our counterterrorism program. As I noted earlier, another critical element of our plan since September 11th has been the increased coordination with our law enforcement and intelligence partners. We understand that we cannot defeat terrorism alone, and we are working hard to enhance coordination and information sharing with all of our partners. The last crucial element of our transformation has been to develop our strategic analytic capability, while at the same time integrating intelligence processes into all of our investigative operations. We needed to dramatically expand our ability to convert our investigative information into strategic intelligence that could guide our operations. And to build that capacity, we have been steadily increasing the size and the caliber of our analytical core, and we established an intelligence program to manage the intelligence process throughout the Bureau. And to oversee this effort, last May, I appointed Maureen Baginski, who is with me today, a 25-year analyst and executive from the National Security Agency, to serve as the Bureau's first executive assistant director for intelligence. And thanks to the efforts of Maureen and her colleagues in the Office of Intelligence over the last year, we have developed and issued concepts of operations governing the new intelligence process, established the Bureau's first intelligence requirements process, established field intelligence groups in our field offices, and we are fundamentally revising our recruitment, training, career development, and evaluations of special agents to develop expertise in intelligence work. These are some of the highlights of our plan for organizational reform, and the pace of change has been steady with the establishment of dozens of new counterterrorism components and capabilities since September 11th. It has also been productive, with measurable increases since September 11th in the number of personnel dedicated to counterterrorism and intelligence operations, the quality and the quantity of intelligence reports we are producing, and lastly, the use of intelligence search authorities and the cultivation of sources, two important measures of our enhanced focus on the development of intelligence. The Bureau is moving steadily in the right direction, and we are making progress thanks to the hard work and dedication of the men and women of the FBI. They have embraced and implemented these counterterrorism and intelligence reforms while continuing to shoulder the responsibility to protect America. And they have carried out the pressing mandate to prevent further terrorism while continuing to work in strict fidelity to the Constitution and the rule of law. And I want to take this opportunity to thank them and their families for their sacrifices and for their service to America. And Mr. Chairman, before I conclude, let me make one last point, if I might. I'm sure the question will be asked today as to my views on the need to establish a separate domestic intelligence agency, so let me address that now. I do believe that creating a separate agency to collect intelligence in the United States would be a grave mistake. Splitting the law enforcement and the intelligence functions would leave both agencies fighting the war on terrorism with one hand tied behind their backs. The distinct advantage we gain by having intelligence and law enforcement together would be lost in more layers and greater stovepiping of information. Not to mention the difficulty of transitioning safely to a new entity while terrorists seek to do us harm. The FBI's strength has always been, is, and will be in the collection of information, Our weakness has been in the integration, analysis, and dissemination of that information, and we are addressing these weaknesses. The country has a tremendous resource in the FBI. We want to make the FBI better. We want to improve it so that we can fulfill our mission to protect America. And we look forward to your suggestions on how we might improve it. Thank you very much for the opportunity to give these remarks, Mr. Chairman.